The elevator rose without sound. Elara Vale stood alone inside it, her reflection multiplying in the mirrored walls. The city slid downward beyond the glass panels, lights dissolving into abstraction as the height increased. She did not look at her reflection. She never did. She watched the floor, numbers descend instead. Hands relaxed at her sides, posture impeccable. The building belonged to her in everything but name. 47 floors of influence, contracts, decisions made in silence. She had learned early that power didn't need announcement. It only required presence. The elevator slowed. A soft chime. The doors parted. He was already there, not waiting in the way people usually waited, restless, expectant, performing patience. He stood still, slightly to the side of the corridor, giving her the center path without making a show of it. Dark suit, no tie. The kind of posture shaped by training rather than ego. Veil, he said, voice even, not deferential. Not familiar. She met his eyes for the first time. There was nothing intrusive there. No curiosity sharpened into hunger, just attention. Clean, controlled, unwavering. She registered it the way one registers temperature, without reaction, but with awareness. "You're early," she said. "I prefer to be," he replied. A single beat of silence followed. He didn't fill it. That was new. She stepped past him, heels soft against the stone floor. He fell into step behind her, precisely one pace back. Not close, not distant, a calculated distance that suggested training rather than instinct. They walked in silence toward her office. Glass walls revealed a city wrapped in early dusk, steel and light stretching endlessly. The kind of view designed to remind people of scale and their place within it. "You've read the brief," she said. "Yes. And? Your security concerns are valid." She stopped walking. He stopped immediately. When she turned, he was already looking at her, not startled, not caught, just attentive. "Most men," she said quietly, "feel the need to reassure me. Or impress me. I'm not most men." The statement wasn't arrogant. It wasn't defensive. It was simply true. She studied him for a moment longer than necessary. Not his face, his stillness, the way he held himself like someone used to waiting for the moment that mattered. "Follow me," she said. Her office was minimal to the point of severity. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a single desk, one chair opposite it. Nothing personal. Nothing to reveal anything beyond intent. She didn't sit. Neither did he. "I don't need protection," she said, turning her back to him as she moved toward the window. "I need discretion. I provide both. Most men say that." Yes. Another silence. This one stretched. She turned slowly, leaning one hand against the glass. The city shimmered beneath her palm. She did not look at him, but she was acutely aware of the space between them, the exact number of steps, the angle of his shoulders, the fact that he had not moved closer despite the invitation inherent in proximity. "You're not watching me," she said. "I am." Her gaze flicked to him. "Then you know I don't like to be followed." "I'm not following you," he replied calmly. "I'm positioned." Something in her expression shifted, not softened but sharpened. Interest, edged with caution. "You'll be with me everywhere," she said. "Meetings, dinners, travel. Yes. You'll hear things you're not meant to repeat. I won't repeat them. You'll see things," she added, eyes steady on his, that are none of your concern. I won't look twice. A pause. Then, quietly, and if I do, he met her gaze without hesitation. I won't act unless you allow it. The words settled between them, heavy and deliberate. For the first time, something like a smile touched her mouth, brief, restrained, gone almost before it appeared. Good, she said. Then we understand each other. She walked past him, close enough that the air shifted. Not a touch, not even a brush, but the awareness was undeniable. A shared recognition of something unspoken and deliberate. As she reached the door, she stopped. Mr. Hale. Yes. You'll start tonight. He inclined his head. I'll be ready. She left without another word. He remained where he was for a moment longer, listening to the quiet hum of the building, feeling the weight of a role that was already more than it appeared. Whatever this was, it had already begun. And neither of them had touched the other.
From which city in the world are you watching this story today? If stories like this, about the unseen, the classified, and the impossible, fascinate you, subscribe. There are more truths hidden between the clouds than we'll ever be clear to see.
The city at night behaved differently. Elara Vale watched it from the back seat of the car as it flowed past. Glass towers gleaming, streets threaded with controlled chaos. She sat perfectly still, legs crossed, hands resting lightly in her lap. The driver never spoke unless spoken to. Neither did the man seated in the front passenger seat. Rowan Hale. He had taken that seat without asking, not claiming authority, not deferring, just choosing the position that made the most sense. She had noticed. She noticed everything. The car slowed as they approached the private garage, beneath the restaurant, a members-only space, discreetly hidden beneath an unmarked building, the kind of place where decisions were finalized over candlelight and expensive restraint. You can wait outside, she said calmly. He didn't turn around. I won't. The word landed without friction. She tilted her head slightly. That wasn't a request. No, he agreed. It was an assumption. Silence stretched between them as the car came to a stop. The engine cut. The quiet sharpened. She studied the back of his head, the precise line of his posture, the absence of tension. He wasn't bracing for correction. He wasn't challenging her. He was simply present in his certainty. You'll remain out of sight, she said finally. Yes. And unheard. Yes. And you will not intervene, she continued, voice measured, unless I indicate otherwise. I understand. She opened the door and stepped out, heels echoing softly against concrete. He exited a moment later, moving smoothly, scanning without obvious movement. Not performative, efficient. Inside the elevator, they stood side by side. The space was narrower than the one in her building. She could feel the proximity, not invasive, but undeniable. Their shoulders did not touch. Their reflections hovered close in the mirrored wall. She didn't look at him. He didn't look at her. But awareness filled the space like a held breath. The doors opened into warm light and hushed luxury. The maître d' greeted her by name, already guiding her forward. Rowan fell back immediately, blending into the background with unsettling ease. Not disappearing, positioning. At the table, Elara sat opposite two men who smiled too quickly and spoke too much. She listened. She always did. Her power was not in volume, but in patience. She felt Rowan before she saw him again, standing near a column, posture relaxed, gaze sweeping the room without lingering. He was not watching her in a way that could be mistaken for interest. He was watching the space around her. That distinction mattered more than she expected. Halfway through the conversation, one of the men leaned too close. Not enough to cause alarm. Enough to test boundaries. Elara did not move away. She did not flinch. She simply went still. The man noticed, mistook it for invitation. Rowan shifted, just one step, not toward her. Toward the space behind the man. Elara caught the movement in her peripheral vision. Subtle, intentional. A reminder, not a threat. The man leaned back almost immediately, clearing his throat, recalibrating. She didn't look at Rowan, but something inside her loosened. Later, in the elevator back down, she spoke without turning her head. You moved. Yes, I didn't ask you to. But no. Her gaze flicked to his reflection. Why? Because you didn't need to ask. The words were quiet, not intimate, but they settled under her skin all the same. Back in the car, the city seemed louder, closer. You read people well, she said. So do you. I read intention, she corrected. So do I. A pause. What did you read tonight? She asked. That you don't like to be rescued, he said evenly. But you don't mind being supported. Her fingers tightened slightly against her knee. She didn't look at him. That's a dangerous distinction. I know. They arrived at her private residence, a high-rise penthouse wrapped in glass and discretion. The driver stepped away. Rowan exited first, scanning the entryway, the shadows, the quiet. You don't have to come up, she said. I do. Again, no challenge, no explanation, just fact. Inside, the space was dim, lit only by the city beyond the windows. She removed her coat slowly, deliberately, draping it over a chair. He remained near the entrance, respectful distance maintained. You'll stay here, she said, gesturing vaguely. If I need you. You'll say so, he finished. She turned then, really looked at him. You never assume. No. Why? Because permission matters. The word hung between them, heavy, precise. She walked closer. Not enough to touch. Enough that the air shifted again. He did not move, did not retreat, did not advance. You're very careful, she said. So are you. Her lips curved faintly. Careful is how people survive. Yes. And what happens, she asked softly, when careful isn't enough? His voice was steady. Then someone decides. She held his gaze for a long moment, measuring, weighing. Finally, she stepped back. You can wait in the adjacent room, she said. Door open. Yes. As she walked away, she felt it. Not desire, not yet, but something more unsettling. Trust. And she wasn't sure who had given it first. Morning arrived without ceremony. Light crept across the glass walls of the penthouse in pale bands, cutting through the city haze. Elara Vale stood barefoot near the window, a porcelain cup warming her hands. She had slept little. Not from restlessness, from awareness. The door to the adjacent room remained open, just as she had instructed. Rowan Hale occupied the threshold like a constant, seated, back straight, jacket removed and folded beside him, sleeves rolled precisely to the forearm. He had not slept. She knew that without looking. She turned slightly. You could have closed the door. I could have, he agreed. But you didn't. No. She took a sip of coffee, eyes on the skyline. You follow instructions very literally. I follow intent. That made her pause. She set the cup down slowly. And what was my intent? That you wanted to know where I was, he said, without having to ask. Silence settled, thicker than before. The city below hummed, distant and indifferent. You're observant, she said. It's my job. No, she corrected, turning to face him fully now. That's discipline. This is something else. He met her gaze calmly. I notice what matters. Her eyes lingered on him longer than necessary, the stillness of his hands, the absence of restlessness. Most men filled silence with movement. He seemed to deepen it. You'll accompany me today, she said. Full schedule. Yes. No hovering. I don't hover. No interruptions. I don't interrupt. She almost smiled again. Almost. The office was already alive when they arrived. Assistants moved efficiently. Conversations hushed as she passed. Rowan remained just behind her shoulder now, closer than before, but still carefully measured. Close enough to be unmistakably present. Far enough to avoid intrusion. In the boardroom, she took her seat at the head of the table. Rowan positioned himself against the wall, unobtrusive, gaze steady. She felt it when his attention sharpened, not on her, but on the shifts in the room, on posture, on tone. Power recognized power. The meeting dragged. Numbers, projections, thinly veiled challenges. Elara listened, unmoving, letting others speak themselves into corners. When she finally responded, it was precise, surgical, no wasted words. She felt Rowan's attention settle. Not approval, not admiration. Alignment. That, too, unsettled her. During the recess, she stood alone near the window. Rowan approached, stopping at a respectful distance. They're testing you, he said quietly. They always do. Today more than usual. She glanced at him. And they're failing. A pause. You're not meant to comment, she said. I'm not, he agreed. You didn't say I couldn't observe. She considered him for a long moment. Careful. Yes. The word carried weight now. Not warning, recognition. Later, in the elevator, the space between them felt different. Charged, though nothing had changed. She leaned back against the wall, arms crossed loosely. Do you enjoy this? She asked suddenly. He looked at her, not startled, just attentive. What part? Watching people, she clarified. Standing at the edges. I don't watch, he said. I wait. For what? For the moment someone reveals themselves. And when they do, I adjust. Her gaze sharpened. And with me? He did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quiet. I haven't needed to. The elevator slowed. Doors opened. That silence followed them out. By evening, the city had shifted again. Rain slicked the streets, turning light into reflection. They arrived at a private residence. One of hers, rarely used, a place designed for privacy rather than comfort. Inside, she removed her jacket, movements unhurried. Rowan remained standing, eyes forward. You can relax, she said. I am relaxed. She studied him. You don't look it. That's habit. She stepped closer, slowly, deliberately. He did not move. did not retreat, did not lean in. "You don't make assumptions," she said softly. "No, you don't reach. No, you don't take. No." The space between them narrowed, not by accident. "Why?" she asked. "Because none of that belongs to me," he replied evenly. "Unless you decide it does." The words landed with unexpected force. Her breath slowed. Not from fear, from something more dangerous. Clarity. She reached out then, not to touch him, to adjust the cuff of his rolled sleeve, fingers hovering just short of contact, close enough that he could feel the warmth without the certainty. He stilled further, if that was possible. That, she said quietly, was intentional. "Yes. You didn't stop me." "No. Why?" "Because you chose it." Her hand withdrew. The absence felt louder than contact would have. She stepped back, breaking the moment deliberately. "You'll stay tonight," she said. "Same arrangement?" "Yes. And tomorrow," she added. "Things change." He met her gaze. "How?" She turned away, already walking toward the window. "You'll find out," she said. Behind her, Rowan remained still, aware that something had shifted, not because of what had happened, but because of what hadn't. The day began without warning. No call. No message, just a quiet shift in the air that Elara recognized the moment she opened her eyes. Something had changed, not around her, but within the structure she controlled so carefully. She dressed without haste, dark fabric, clean lines, a deliberate return to armor. When she stepped into the main room, Rowan was already awake, standing, waiting, always present in a precise way that never intruded. "You're early," she said. "So are you." She allowed that. "There's a board dinner tonight," she continued. "Off-site. Private." He nodded once. "I'll prepare." She studied him. "It won't be like before." "It never is." That earned a pause. "You don't ask questions," she observed. "I wait for instructions. And if they never come, then I stay ready." She didn't respond. She turned away, already moving toward the day. The venue was a private estate, outside the city, old architecture, new money, controlled opulence, security discreet but omnipresent. The kind of place designed to make power feel inherited rather than earned. Elara arrived composed, immaculate. Rowan followed at the exact distance she had come to expect, not behind, not beside, orbiting. Inside, conversations curled through the space like smoke. Deals whispered. Alliances measured. Eyes lingered longer than politeness required. She took her place at the table, posture relaxed, presence unmistakable. Rowan remained near the perimeter, unassuming, alert. As the evening progressed, attention shifted. The glances became less respectful, more curious. One man in particular, charming, careless, spoke too closely, laughed too freely, mistook access for invitation. Elara remained composed. She did not correct him. She watched him reveal himself. Rowan noticed immediately, not the words, the angle of the man's body, the proximity, the way his voice lowered. He did not move. Not yet. The moment came quietly. A hand gestured too wide. A step crossed an invisible line. Elara did not step back. She simply lifted her eyes. And Rowan moved, not toward her, beside her. A single step that shifted the air. a presence placed, not imposed. The man faltered, mid-sentence, recalibrating as if realizing too late that he'd misjudged the room. "I believe," Rowan said calmly. Miss Vale was finished speaking. The tone was polite. The message was absolute. The man laughed too loudly, recovered too quickly, and excused himself. Elara didn't look at Rowan, but her exhale was slow, deliberate. Later, when the crowd thinned and the noise softened into background hum, she approached him. "You acted without instruction," she said. "Yes." Her gaze sharpened. "You didn't wait." "No." A long pause stretched between them. "Why?" she asked. "Because you didn't need to say it," he replied evenly. "And because you shouldn't have to." Her expression shifted, not surprise, but something closer to recognition. That could have consequences. "I'm aware." She studied his face, searching for arrogance, for assumption. Found neither. "You're learning," she said. "So are you." That earned him a look. Not reprimand, not approval. Something more complex. Later, the event concluded. The city outside had softened into night. Inside the car, silence wrapped around them again. "You crossed a line tonight," she said quietly. "Yes. And yet," she continued, "you did exactly what I needed." He met her eyes in the rearview mirror. Then I crossed the right one. The car slowed outside her building. Lights gleamed against glass and steel. She didn't move to exit immediately. "There are moments," she said, voice low, "when control is not about holding power, but knowing when to let someone else hold it for you." He remained still, attentive. "I don't offer that lightly," she continued. "I know." She turned to face him fully now. The space between them was charged, not with urgency, but with precision. "This isn't permission," she said. "I understand. It's acknowledgement." He nodded once. "That's enough," she added. She stepped out of the car. Before closing the door, she paused. "Stay close," she said. Not a command. Not a request. A decision. The door closed. The car pulled away. And Rowan remained where he was. Steady, composed, fully aware that something fundamental had shifted. Not because they had crossed a line, but because they both knew exactly where it was now drawn. The city shifted its weight overnight. By morning, headlines whispered speculation, market tremors, a subtle recalibration of alliances that Elara Vale had anticipated weeks ago and permitted only now. She read the reports in silence, seated at the long table in her penthouse, tablet untouched, coffee cooling beside her. Rowan stood near the window, not guarding it, not watching outside, watching her. Not directly, never that, but aware in the way he had become increasingly precise about, as if her stillness carried meaning he was learning to read. "You're not reacting," he said quietly. "I already did," she replied. He waited. She appreciated that more than she should have. "This was always coming," she continued. "They just needed to believe it was their idea. And now? Now they'll look for leverage." His posture shifted almost imperceptibly. "Against you." "Yes, all through you." She turned her head slightly. "Explain." "People who can't control you," he said evenly, "often try to access what's closest instead." Silence followed. Not disagreement. "Assessment. You think they'll look at you," she said. "I know they will." "You're very certain." "Yes," She rose from the table, crossing the room slowly. Each step measured, intentional. She stopped a few feet from him. That complicates things, she said. It clarifies them. Her gaze searched his face, not for reassurance, but for fracture. Found none. You didn't sign up for that. No, he agreed, but I accepted it. Why? He answered without hesitation. Because you didn't choose me by accident. Something tightened in her chest. Not fear. Recognition. You're not replaceable, she said. I know, not arrogance. Fact. She turned away, walking toward the window now, hands folding behind her back. This arrangement, she said slowly, is evolving. Yes. And you're aware that I don't tolerate loss of control. Yes. She glanced back at him. Yet you keep stepping closer to it. I step where you allow, he replied. No further. That stopped her. She faced him, fully. The space between them felt smaller than before, though neither had moved. You're walking a very narrow line, she said. So are you. Her lips pressed together briefly. Not displeasure. Concentration. That evening, they attended another function, smaller, quieter. A private gallery opening. Fewer people, sharper eyes. The kind of room where silence carried more weight than conversation. Elara moved through the space effortlessly. Rowan stayed close now. Not behind, not hidden. Present enough to be unmistakable. She felt the shift in perception. People noticed. They recalibrated. One woman approached, polite, smiling, curious. Her gaze lingered on Rowan longer than necessary. Elara, she said lightly, you've added an interesting detail to your silhouette. Elara didn't look at Rowan when she replied. Details matter. They do, the woman agreed, eyes still assessing. Especially the rare ones. Rowan did not react. Not outwardly. Elara did. She stepped half a pace closer to him. Not touching. Claiming space. The woman noticed. Smiled thinner. Moved on. Later, as they stood near a sculpture washed in low light, Rowan spoke softly. You didn't have to do that. Yes, Elara replied, eyes forward. I did. A pause. That wasn't strategic, he added. No, she said. It wasn't. He turned his head slightly. Not enough to face her fully. Are you comfortable with that? She considered the question longer than she liked. I'm aware of it, she said finally. That was the truth. Back at the penthouse, the city was restless below them. She removed her coat, slower than usual, movements unguarded. You'll be staying later, she said. Yes. Not on watch, she clarified. Present. He absorbed that, did not interpret it beyond what was given. Understood. She walked past him toward the kitchen, stopping midway. You were right earlier, she said quietly. About what? Leverage, she replied. They're already testing it. He waited. And, he prompted gently. And I didn't shut it down. His attention sharpened. Why not? She turned, meeting his gaze directly. Because sometimes, she said, voice low, controlled, it's useful to see who thinks they're allowed to reach. Silence settled, heavy, deliberate. You're not an... The tension did not announce itself. It settled. By the sixth day, it was everywhere. In the way assistants paused before speaking, in the hesitation before doors opened, in the silence that followed Elara Vale through rooms that once responded instantly. Pressure did not arrive loudly. It crept. Rowan noticed before anyone else. Not because he was watching her, but because he was watching everything around her shift by fractions, the kind of movement most people dismissed as coincidence. "They're circling," he said that evening as they crossed the penthouse floor. "Yes," Elara replied. "I let them." He stopped. She didn't. You don't, usually. "I do," she corrected. "Just not this openly." He followed her to the window. Rain streaked the glass, breaking the city into fragments. "They want you reactive," he said. "Unbalanced." She turned slightly. "Do I seem that?" "No," he said immediately. Then, after a pause, "But they think proximity might make you so." Her gaze sharpened. "Proximity to whom?" "To me." The word landed cleanly between them. She studied his reflection in the glass, the calm line of his shoulders, the stillness that had become familiar. "You could step back," she said. "Create distance." "Yes, but you won't." "No." She turned fully now. "Why?" "Because distance wouldn't protect you," he replied. "It would signal vulnerability." "That assumes I need protection." "No," he said evenly. "It assumes perception matters." Silence thickened. "You've become very comfortable speaking to me like this," she said. "Only when it matters." "And does this matter?" "Yes." She accepted that with a slow nod. That night, the first real test arrived. It was subtle, a delayed car, a change in route, a street quieter than it should have been. Rowan felt it before he saw it, the way his body did when something didn't align. "Stay in the car," he said quietly. She didn't argue. That was new. He exited, scanning the street, posture relaxed but alert. The moment passed without incident. A false edge, a message delivered without action. Back inside the car, silence returned. "There, measuring," she said. "Yes, and you?" "I'm adjusting." Her eyes flicked to him. To what? To how far they're willing to go. "And you?" she asked again. "How far are you willing to go?" He met her gaze steadily. "As far as you allow." She looked away first. At the penthouse, the city felt closer, louder. She removed her shoes, leaving them by the door. A small, unguarded gesture. "You don't have to stay tonight," she said. "I will." "You don't have to." "I know." She moved towards the kitchen, then stopped, turned. "You're not obligated," she said carefully. "No," he agreed. "I'm present." The words settled differently now. She walked toward him, slowly, not testing, choosing, stopped just short of contact. "You're becoming visible," she said. "That has consequences." "Yes." "And if I decide those consequences are too great, then I'll step back." She searched his face. "Without resentment, yes. Without expectation, yes. And without waiting for me to reconsider, yes." Her breath slowed. "That," she said quietly, "is dangerous." "I know." She raised her hand, not to touch him, to rest it against his chest. Flat palm, light pressure. Not intimacy, confirmation. He did not move, did not inhale sharply, did not reach for her. The moment held. Then she withdrew her hand. "That doesn't change anything," she said. "No," he agreed. "But it defines it." She turned away, walking toward the window. Her reflection in the glass looked different now. Not weaker, more precise. "You'll stay," she said. "Yes. But tomorrow," she added, "I may ask you to disappear." He nodded once. "I'll be ready." She closed her eyes briefly, not in exhaustion, in acknowledgement. Behind her, Rowan remained exactly where he was, steady, contained, fully aware that the line between presence and attachment had been crossed. Not by touch, but by choice. The request came without warning. Elara did not preface it. She did not soften it. She did not disguise it as strategy, though it was. "Disappear," she said. They stood in the private corridor beneath her primary building, a space reserved for moments that were not meant to be observed. Concrete, glass, silence. The city pulsed somewhere above them, distant and irrelevant. Rowan did not react. "How long?" he asked. "Until I call you back." "No contact?" "None." He nodded once. "Understood." There was no tension in his posture, no disappointment in his voice, just acceptance. She watched him closely now, not testing his loyalty, confirming it. "You'll be watched," she added. "Indirectly. I expect that. And they'll think," she continued, "that you were a variable I removed. Yes, that assumption protects me and exposes me." Her gaze sharpened. "You're aware of that?" "Yes." Silence expanded between them. This one felt heavier than the others. "You can refuse," she said. "I won't." "That wasn't an order. I know." She inhaled slowly. The air felt thinner. "This ends the ambiguity," she said. "No," he replied gently. "It clarifies it. The distinction mattered." She turned away first. "Go." He did not move immediately. "Elara." She froze at the sound of her name. He had never used it before. "Yes," she said, without turning. "You know where I'll be," he said. "If you decide otherwise." She closed her eyes briefly, then nodded once. He left without another word. The absence was immediate. Not loud, not dramatic, just a subtle shift in the architecture of her day. The rooms felt larger, the silences stretched differently. People spoke more freely and watched her more closely. They believed the narrative she had allowed. She let them. Days passed. She navigated meetings with surgical precision. She moved through crowds untouched. She slept alone, undisturbed, and less than before. At night, she stood by the window longer than necessary. She never checked for messages. She didn't need to. The call came on the fourth night. One word, no greeting. Now. He arrived within minutes. Not through the front, through the private access only he knew. He stood just inside the threshold, posture unchanged, expression steady. "You were followed," she said. "Yes." "You lost them." "Yes." She nodded. Good. They stood in silence again. Different now. Sharper. More deliberate. "You asked me to disappear," he said. "I know. And you called me back." "Yes." A pause. "Why now?" he asked. "Because they made a mistake." "And?" "They assumed," she continued, "that removing you would leave me exposed." "And did it?" She met his gaze fully. "No. Why not?" "Because," she said quietly, "I chose when you were absent. The words landed with weight. He absorbed them without reaction, without satisfaction. That was a test, he said. Yes, and you passed. She exhaled slowly. So did you. The city hummed beyond the glass. Lights flickered like signals. You could stay, she said. Yes. Or you could leave again. Yes. She studied him. The calm certainty, the absence of demand. I don't want to decide alone anymore, she said. He did not step closer. He did not reach. Then don't, he replied. The simplicity of it unsettled her more than any declaration could have. She moved then, not toward him, past him, to the window. He followed, not beside, not behind. Close enough to feel, far enough to respect. They stood there together, city spread beneath them, silence unbroken. For the first time, the tension did not press. It settled, not resolved. Chosen, the city exhaled, not in relief, in recalibration. By morning, the pressure that had hovered at the edges of Elara Vale's world had thinned, not vanished. Power never vanished. It only shifted hands, angles, narratives. And this time the narrative belonged to her again. She stood in the penthouse kitchen, sleeves rolled, coffee untouched. Rowan remained nearby, leaning lightly against the counter opposite her. Not guarding, not waiting, present. You won't be invisible anymore, she said. I know. They'll connect the return, she continued. Eventually. Yes, and when they do, she said, eyes steady on his, they'll understand what it means. What will it mean? He asked. That I choose what stays, she replied. And what leaves? A pause. And me? He asked, not challenging, clarifying. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked past him, slow, deliberate, stopped near the window, looked out at the city she controlled with silence and timing. You were never leverage, she said finally. That was their mistake. And yours? He asked gently. She turned, met his gaze without armor now, not vulnerable, but unguarded. My risk, she said. Not my weakness. The distinction mattered. He nodded once. Later that day, the board convened. Elara entered alone. No shadow at her shoulder. No visible reinforcement. Just her presence. Precise, unhurried, absolute. The room quieted, as it always did. But this time, something else threaded through the silence. Certainty. She spoke when it mattered. Withheld when it didn't. By the time the meeting ended, the outcome had already been decided, not by vote, but by alignment. When she returned to the penthouse, Rowan was there, waiting without waiting. They folded, he said. Yes, you didn't need me. No, she agreed. I didn't. She set her bag down, removed her jacket, moved closer, not into his space, but near enough that the air acknowledged it. But, she continued, I wanted you here. He absorbed that without expression. That's the difference, she added. Silence followed, not tense, settled. You never touched me, she said. No, you never asked. No, you never took. No. Her gaze held his. And yet, she said softly, you were closer than anyone's been in years. Because you allowed it, he replied. Yes. The city lights flickered behind them, reflected in glass and steel. "This doesn't end," she said. "It stabilizes." "I understand. There will be boundaries." "I respect them. There will be moments when I step away. I'll stay ready." She watched him for a long moment, then nodded. Once. Decisive. "Then stay," she said. Not as an order, not as permission, as choice. He did not move closer. He did not reach for her. He simply remained, exactly where he was meant to be. Side by side, not touching, they stood at the window as the city moved beneath them. Power intact. Desire restrained. Everything changed. Nothing broken.